Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we plunge into your fascinating sources, pulling out those hidden gems, the surprising truths, and the powerful insights that really inform. Today, we're embarking on a deeply personal journey, actually. It offers a pretty rare glimpse behind the curtain of a very public life. Our sources for this deep dive, they're the poignant and frankly remarkably candid reflections from Kenneth Copeland shared in the wake of his wife Gloria's passing. For decades, Gloria Copeland presented this image of just unwavering, calm, grace, a spiritual mother figure to millions, really. You probably picture her always polished, always smiling, delivering her message, with such steady conviction. She seemed to embody peace.
Absolutely. That was the image.
But Kenneth's words, shared with this striking vulnerability, they hint at something more complex, a side of Gloria few, if any, ever truly saw.
And that's precisely our mission today, isn't it? We're going to navigate these really intimate revelations. We'll carefully contrast that widely known public image of Gloria Copeland with the profound, sometimes challenging private reality that Kenneth experienced, and that he's now bravely shared. It's a journey into the complexities,
Yes.
A powerful public life intersecting with very human, very private struggles. And it's all drawn directly from his deeply felt reflections. We'll explore the toll of an image, the cost of control, and maybe ultimately a quiet path toward peace.
Okay, let's really unpack this then.
Before we move further in the podcast, we will appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. Also, share your thoughts in the comment section.
Kenneth's account, it vividly describes Gloria's public persona. He uses terms like calm grace, radiating this almost ethereal quality, the spiritual mother figure, the soft voice, the gentle manner, preaching on healing, love, and God's mercy. You pictured her always serene, right? Always embodying that faith.
Totally, that's the picture.
But then Kenneth pulls back the curtain, and he reveals this stark, private reality.
And what's truly fascinating here, and maybe a bit disarming, is just how stark that contrast is. Kenneth paints this picture where he reveals that at home, away from the cameras, away from the crowds, Gloria could be cold, sharp, and difficult to approach emotionally.
Wow. Cold and sharp.
Yeah. He details how she seemed to become, over time, more controlling, more distant, and far less patient than anyone in the public eye would have ever guessed. And this isn't just like a personal anecdote he's throwing out there. It's a reminder, I think, that even the most meticulously crafted public images can mask these profound internal relational struggles. It highlights the often invisible cost of maintaining that kind of persona.
That sounds incredibly isolating for him. He even uses the phrase walking on eggshells. That's how he described navigating their home life. She held high expectations for everyone, he said. And when things didn't align perfectly with her vision, well, he described her delivering silent disapproval to sharp criticism without warning.
Without warning.
Yeah. Kenneth candidly talked about moments where she might not speak to him for days, and he emphasizes this point. It was not out of sorrow, but out of principle.
Out of principle? Wow.
See, imagine, not a reaction to pain, but a deliberate stance. He felt kind of emotionally punished if he didn't meet her exact standards, or maybe even just questioned her direction on something.
That silence must have been heavy.
Oh, absolutely. He truly laid bare the emotional impact. Kenneth actually said, and this is a direct quote, "I would have rather had a fight than the silence." He described the whole experience as emotional whiplash, that jarring switch, from the warm, inspirational figure on stage holding his hand maybe, to just ignoring him for hours at home once the lights went off. It's hard to fathom living with that kind of intense, unpredictable shift.
And that phrase, emotional whiplash, it just perfectly captures the disorienting impact of that kind of divide, doesn't it? When we think about the immense pressure public figures face, especially those in spiritual leadership, to maintain this image of perfection, this stark public-private split, it raises a crucial question. What is the true hidden toll on individuals and their closest relationships when that external persona becomes so carefully crafted, it just eclipses the authentic self? And like you said, this isn't just about Gloria. It reflects a broader human challenge, I think, where the image we project can consume us, often at the expense of the people we love most.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that tension between the public persona and the private reality, it inevitably spilled over into the ministry, didn't it?
Yeah.
The powerful ministry Gloria co-built. Kenneth's reflections, they describe a very different energy in the early days. He called it simpler, humbler,
Right.
with Gloria being sharp, focused, and powerful in her communication, instantly respected. She could just captivate a room, not necessarily by volume, but by sheer conviction.
Indeed. But then, as the ministry got bigger, as its influence grew, Kenneth observed a shift, a significant one. He admitted pretty frankly to seeing how power, it seemed, became more important than people.
Mm-hmm.
Gloria, he felt, she transitioned from simply leading to, well, his word was ruling. The ministry started to operate like a machine, he said, where anything that slowed its momentum was seen as a problem to be fixed, not maybe a person needing care. Staff, he noticed, began to feel more like tools, valuable only as long as they contributed to the machine's efficiency.
That's a powerful and honestly somewhat unsettling image. Tools. It really aligns with Kenneth's reflections on former staff members quietly leaving the ministry over the years. They rarely spoke out publicly, but the subtle hints pointed to a difficult environment behind the scenes.
Right, the whiskers.
Exactly. These staff apparently described Gloria as brilliant, yes, but also quick to judge, slow to forgive, and nearly impossible to please. Kenneth is careful, though. He emphasizes she wasn't evil, but rather that everyone within her orbit lived inside this carefully crafted image, which meant often the people closest to them felt excluded from the very blessing and grace their ministry was offering outwardly to millions.
That carefully crafted image wasn't just about public appearance, was it? It extended to this demanding expectation of unwavering strength. There's a particularly poignant detail Kenneth shared that really illuminates Gloria's approach to personal problems within the ministry itself. Apparently, when staff members came forward with struggles and, a sick family member, maybe mental health challenges, or even just burnout.
Yeah, real life stuff.
It's exactly real life. Her response was often along the lines of, stay strong, push through, we don't have time for weakness. And in the context of their faith, which is often associated with divine healing and overcoming, this wasn't just seen as personal weakness.
Yeah.
It implied a kind of spiritual failure, like your lack of strength could actively hinder God's work. That's an immense burden to place on someone who's already struggling.
Wow. That's a profound tension you just highlighted there, between that unwavering faith message and just, well, basic human compassion. Kenneth recounted this truly heartbreaking moment. A young woman, utterly crushed by the unexpected loss of her father, came to Gloria in tears, just seeking solace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gloria's reported response was chillingly direct. This is the time to show strength, not fall apart.
Oof.
Yeah. The young woman left the room devastated, apparently, and never returned to work after that day. Kenneth later whispered, he said, with this deep sadness, she needed compassion. She got a command.
That's a truly gut-wrenching example. It really underscores the human cost of that kind of unwavering, demanding approach, not just to faith, but to leadership in general. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us to consider that fine line, between strong visionary leadership and a profound lack of empathy, especially when ambition and results become paramount. How often does the mission, however noble it seems, inadvertently overshadow the well-being of the actual people involved, creating environments where vulnerability is seen as a liability, not just a human need?
It certainly makes you wonder, in our own professional lives, right, in the organizations we're part of, how do we balance those ambitious demands of a mission with the essential need for grace, for understanding? How do we make sure the message doesn't become bigger or more important than the people hearing it and living it? It's a tough balance.
It really is.
And beyond the ministry, Kenneth's words reveal how these intense dynamics played out right in their own home. From the outside, the Copeland family looked like the perfect spiritual dynasty, standing united for decades, preaching about love, unity, divine purpose. They were the role models.
The ideal, yeah. But Kenneth admitted, very candidly, that the Copeland home wasn't always peaceful. In fact, it sounds like many of the same demanding expectations Gloria projected onto the ministry staff slowly crept into their private life. Her expectations for her children, even close relatives, were extremely high. They were kind of expected to be spiritual prodigies.
Prodigies.
Yeah, excelling in everything. Academics, their public representation of the family name. Anything less, Kenneth observed, was often perceived, maybe implicitly, as unacceptable.
That sounds like immense pressure for kids, and it created distance, didn't it? One child, according to Kenneth, began quietly pulling away in their teenage years. It wasn't this dramatic rebellion, not explosive fights.
Right, not a big blow-up.
No, it was more like a slow, subtle fading into the background, eventually stepping away from the spotlight completely. Gloria's public response, if asked, was often kind of dismissive. Oh, they're just figuring things out. They'll come back around.
Hmm.
But privately, Kenneth saw the signs, the real signs. Missed birthdays, unanswered messages, long stretches of silence. It paints this picture of a slow, quiet erosion. A different kind of pain than an explosive fight, maybe, but perhaps even more deeply scarring because it was so unspoken.
That's a powerful description, a profound silence settling over things. How did Kenneth describe actually living with that unspoken tension day to day?
Well, he detailed how Gloria had this way of just freezing things she didn't want to deal with.
Freezing them.
Yeah, like putting them on ice emotionally. Kenneth explained that he felt pride got in the way of reconciliation. Her stance was apparently very firm, almost like a declaration, they know where I stand. If they want to talk, they know where to find me.
Wow, that's a hard line.
Exactly. And that posture, firm, proud, ultimately closed it, kept the family fractured for years. There was this lingering tension, even during family holidays or gatherings.
This truly raises an important, maybe universal question, doesn't it? What is the true long-term cost when pride prevents reconciliation? Especially within our closest, most foundational relationships. The sources describe these quiet fractures, slow, unspoken breakages. It's a heartbreaking paradox, really. Gloria preaching forgiveness and restoration to the world.
While her own family.
Exactly, while her own family relationship sat there unresolved. And it wasn't just about that one child either. Kenneth felt that other family members, friends too, often felt judged, like they could never be enough in her eyes.
Kenneth felt it deeply, he said, in his bones. The air in those rooms was heavy, like something important was missing, and everyone knew it. These weren't dramatic fallouts necessarily, more like these quiet hurts that just slowly, subtly drifted people away. So reflecting on this, what does this all mean for us listening? How do our own expectations, personal and public, impact our closest relationships? And what are the unseen, often profound consequences of those unspoken hurts within our own families, especially when we struggle to show grace for those who maybe don't align perfectly with our worldview?
Deep questions.
Yeah, but despite all this, Kenneth's reflections reveal this really profound and quite moving shift in Gloria's final years. Her presence on stage, he noticed, softened. The fire in her tone gave way to something quieter, more mattered. He describes her becoming more reflective, spending increasing time alone, journaling, praying, sometimes just sitting with her Bible open, not always actively reading, he said, but simply being.
And this period, Kenneth seemed to believe, was marked by a deep internal introspection. Not necessarily for public consumption. He shared a story where he once found her just staring out a window holding this worn photograph of their children. When he gently asked what was on her mind, she simply said, I'm thinking about how fast it all went.
Powerful.
Yeah, and this quiet reflection, Kenneth interpreted it as her way of sitting with the truth, her truth. Without needing a public confession or some dramatic outward apology. She wasn't trying to fix everything in a big gesture maybe, but rather to understand it and maybe make peace with it internally.
It kind of highlights that profound personal change doesn't always look like a big announcement, Sometimes it's just a quiet internal process of coming to terms with your own life.
And then Kenneth recounts this truly profound moment. It was not long before she fell ill. Gloria turned to him and said, apparently with this quiet intensity, I spent so much time trying to be right. I think I forgot what it felt like to just be kind.
Kenneth said that line just hit him like a weight. It landed with the full force of decades of maybe unspoken truth between them. And he describes his silent nod in response as one of the most honest moments they ever shared. Precisely because it was the first time she had ever articulated anything like that out loud.
That is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And it speaks to that idea that profound change, or what some might call redemption, maybe it is a quiet internal process, one that culminates not in some public spectacle, but in a shift of being. You see it in how Gloria apparently became noticeably gentler with her grandchildren, less demanding, allowing them to be messy, loud, playful.
Just kids.
Just kids, exactly. She didn't scold. She simply smiled, he said. Truly present with no agenda. No schedule, no teaching point, just pure unadulterated love. This quiet shift, Kenneth observed, felt like her way of leaving a different kind of legacy behind.
It's beautiful to imagine that softening, isn't it? And he also describes some of the distanced family members during that final season gradually returning. There were moments of hugs, shared meals, laughter again. He admits, it wasn't perfect. There were still unspoken things between them.
Sure. History doesn't vanish.
Right. But it was real, he said. It was a return to some genuine connection, even if it was incomplete.
That's significant.
And Kenneth also discovered, after her passing, her quiet way of leaving pieces of herself behind. Little things. Short notes, some scripture, some thoughts, and sometimes just a simple "I love you" scribbled in her careful handwriting, tucked into drawers or books she knew he'd eventually find.
Oh, wow.
These weren't teachings, not commands, he stressed, just love, pure and simple. It felt like her intimate way of letting go of that carefully constructed image she'd worked so hard to live up to. Was this, do you think, in Kenneth's eyes, her way of sort of subtly undoing some of the earlier commands and expectations?
Kenneth certainly seemed to perceive it that way. He saw these notes as a quiet, personal recalibration, a testament to her journey towards inner peace, perhaps. And it fits with what he said about their final conversations. The focus wasn't on ministry or doctrine anymore. It was on ordinary things.
Like what?
Their first house, favorite road trips, times they just laughed so hard they couldn't breathe. Simple memories. Her eyes, Kenneth recalled, softened. She wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. She was just letting herself be loved and offering love in return, free from that weight of expectations.
That sounds like a kind of peace.
It does.
And the final detail, the most poignant one, really. After she passed, Kenneth went through her prayer journal. In the very last entry, written just a few weeks before her death, she had scribbled one single powerful line.
What was it?
Lord, help me love better than I lead.
Oh my. Help me love better than I lead. That final entry, it just beautifully captures the profound essence of her journey, doesn't it? A lifetime dedicated to trying to change the world, maybe, culminating in this quiet internal realization that the most important change might have been the one happening within her own heart. She saw the cracks, it seems, felt them, and in her own quiet way, tried to make peace with them through presence, through gentleness. It wasn't about denying the past, maybe, but about choosing at the very end to lead with love. It really makes us consider, doesn't it? What does it mean to love better than we lead, whether that's in our families, our careers, our public lives? Can we, maybe like Gloria in her final season, find peace and quiet reflection and make that conscious choice towards kindness, even without the grand gestures or public apologies?
So what does this deeply personal journey through Kenneth Copeland's reflections ultimately mean for us? Gloria Copeland, undoubtedly left behind a powerful and far-reaching legacy of faith. It impacted countless lives. But through Kenneth's honest, loving, and vulnerable reflections, we're granted access to the full picture. The complicated, deeply human picture. A woman of immense drive, immense conviction, who, in her final season, found this quiet path to softness, to self-awareness, and to a profound, deeper understanding of love.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it powerfully reinforces Kenneth's own profound belief. He stated that the greatest legacy anyone can leave isn't in sermons or books. It's in the love they gave, the grace they offered, and the bridges they built while they were still here. He seemed to understand that without acknowledging the full truth, Gloria's legacy would remain only half told, maybe incomplete. Her final actions, those final words, they speak volumes about the transformative power of a quiet, internal shift toward love.
Yeah. This deep dive into Gloria Copeland's unveiled truth as seen through Kenneth's eyes, it definitely leaves us with a lot to consider. About the masks we all wear sometimes, the expectations we carry for ourselves and others, and that quiet, often internal journey towards self-awareness. What does it mean for you, listening right now, to face your life honestly, to hold both the beautiful and the broken parts, and to consciously choose to leave behind more love than damage? What unspoken things in your own life, maybe what relationships might benefit from just a quiet moment of presence, a conscious choice towards gentleness, or maybe even just a simple, heartfelt, "I love you" left for someone important to find? We really hope this deep dive sparks even more curiosity and reflection for you.